Hello everyone, GoldenNova here, and it is Patron Week, the time where my supporters who go above and beyond get a chance to decide what video I make. And this time, I've got to make a phone call I've been dreading for a while. See, a long while ago I covered Ojamas, for charity I should mention, not to make me look good, rather to reiterate that I would never come close to talking about these strange amalgams of the flesh, unless my hands were tied. I also covered an Ojama Armed Dragon deck with Mage of Ancients, which you can find linked up here, and both times I had run-ins with Chazz Princeton. That's right, the bad boy of Duel Academy himself has guest starred here before, and let me tell you, he's just as hard to work with as you think. I'd previously meant to cover Armed Dragon in the past, but Chazz has been off on his book tour, and I haven't heard from him since, so honestly, I was kind of hoping he'd forgotten about all this, but it'll be hard to cover this without Mr. Thunder himself, so, let's do this.
How'd you get this number?
Hey, Chazz, how's it going?
How did you get this number?
I, had the desk bots do some digging. Look, your secretary kept giving me the runaround. I couldn't...
Yeah, 'cause I told him to.
Why?
Because you kept ignoring my emails, and I wasn't gonna work with someone rude enough to dismiss my missives.
Email?
Yeah, I figured when Blazing Vortex dropped, you'd need my expert opinion, so I took time out of my busy schedule to write you my magnum opus. It puts my book to shame.
Oh, here it is. Looks like it ended up in my spam folder.
Spam? Spam? You're telling me that your email filter didn't recognize the greatness of the Chazz?
It might have recognized you were trying to sell me Armed Like a Dragon, Duel Like Chazz with the power of a Blazing Vortex, the hit guide to dueling that puts Road of the Kings to shame.
That's it! I'm suing that crappy email service for all it's worth!
Well, glad to hear we have something to work with now. So alongside a number of other level monsters in the October 2004 core set, Soul of the Duelist, Armed Dragon ended up being one of the two core archetypes used by Chazz Princeton. Its original forms have been largely relegated to being part of Ojama combos to make unreasonably powerful monsters with unreasonably difficult summoning conditions. But with their retrains in Blazing Vortex, they're looking to use a good old dose of Monjome Thunder to take the dueling world by storm. So, let's take a look at all the Armed Dragon cards to make sure they're on the level, see how their skill trees evolve with them, then see if there are any party members we can add to bolster our team. It's time to Chazz it up with Armed Dragons! But before we continue, a quick reminder to please like and subscribe if you've enjoyed my content so far. We're on the road to 100,000 subscribers, and there's no better way to get there than on our Duel Runners. Our next stop is 40k, which means Leo and Luna Explained, where we'll be covering Ancient Fairy Dragon's companions, the Power Tool Dragons, Morphtronics, and any other cards that are more than meets the eye. We've also got our Discord, that is also chazzing it up. I also have a Twitch where you can join me for viewer duels, progression polls, and chaos draft polls for the foreseeable future. And don't forget about my Patreon, where you can gain access to my videos early, reach some of these milestones, as well as helping to determine which videos I make. Thank you all so much for watching, and now, back to the video. So what's the deal with Armed Dragons? Well, they're a series of wind attribute dragon-type monsters. They don't have a super cohesive set of abilities, save for the fact that they love destroying things. Many of them also tie into the level mechanic, something that was added to a number of themes to try to emulate the experience of a monster growing stronger by meeting certain conditions. Many of them sucked. A few were pretty good, though it was in spite of the level mechanic, not because of it. Armed Dragon fell somewhere in the middle, with some relevant level up requirements and effects. So, to make sure we account for everything, we'll start by covering the original Armed Dragons, cover their Thunder counterparts, followed by any others in their orbit, then cover the spell and trap support. That means we're going to start with Armed Dragon level 3, who has 1200 attack and 900 defense, and during your standby phase, you can special summon this card from the grave to special summon an Armed Dragon level 5 from your hand or deck. It's not exactly a safe option to normal summon this and leave it unattended on the field for a turn, which is why early Armed Dragon decks would make great use of Masked Dragon. If you timed its floating effect right, you could summon it after your opponent was out of attacks, at which point you can tag them into level 5 when their turn is over. So it's worthwhile to keep a few of these on standby, just in case. Armed Dragon level 5 has 2400 attack and 1700 defense, and it can send a monster from your hand to the grave, then target a monster your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to the sent monster's attack to destroy that target. And during the end phase, if this card destroyed a monster by battle this turn, you can send this card to the grave to special summon an Armed Dragon level 7 from your hand or deck. Notably, its first effect is not once per turn, so if you have enough monsters, you can trade them all out for removal. Provided their attacks are high enough, that is. And with 2400 attack, you've got a good chance of going right to level 7 the turn it's summoned, which makes level 5 worthy of a big high 5. Armed Dragon level 7 has 2800 attack and 1000 defense, ooh, Mega Monarch stats, and is the first of this line that can't be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned by way of level 5. It can send a monster from your hand to the grave to destroy all monsters your opponent controls with attack less than or equal to the sent monster's attack. So now you no longer need a fistful of monsters to churn into the buzzsaw machine. Level 7 makes do with just one, at which point you can punch in for a good chunk of damage. Though that does require you to also have a high attack monster in hand to feed to the effect, so you're gonna have to be a little lucky with level 7 here. Now, you might have thought we were at the end of the evolutionary line because level 7 doesn't have a way to level up itself, but that's only because the next form asks for just a little bit more investment. Armed Dragon level 10 has 3000 attack and 2000 defense, can't be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned from your hand by tributing an Armed Dragon level 7, and it can send any card from your hand to the grave to destroy all face-up monsters your opponent controls without having to check for attack stats. There we go, the perfect evolution of this effect. Now, every card in your hand can become a lightning vortex without the cost, and like levels 5 and 7 before it, this is not a once per turn effect, so if something needs a second dose of dragon destruction, level 10 can do it again. Okay, so that's all the original Armed Dragons, now let's pivot over to their Thunder counterparts. But don't let the name fool you, they're still very much dragons. They're also a vast improvement on the old level up formula. Each one counts as their original form while on the field or in the grave, and they also level up much quicker, as you can send any monster from your hand to the grave to, on resolution, send that Armed Dragon you're leveling up to the grave to special summon an Armed Dragon with a level equal to or lower than the next Armed Dragon in the chain from your hand or deck. This does mean that on top of being able to level up normally, you can also level down from level 5 to level 3, which I'm not sure why they let you do that, but the option is there. And on top of all that, many of your Armed Dragon Thunders have an effect that trigger if sent to the grave to activate a dragon monster's effect, which ties in very well with the new level up mechanic. You get to bring out stronger monsters and get something a little extra to make up for the minus. And because it triggers when sent to the grave for any dragon monster's effects, you can find some very creative uses for them. The drawback is that most of these monsters don't have any effects on the field. They're basically only step ladders to the next level, stripping them of a lot of utility. In fact, there's so little to talk about that we're going to lump them all together here because each Thunder has the same stats as their equivalent original level. Armed Dragon level 3 draws you a card when sent to the grave for a dragon monster's effect. Thunder level 5 adds any level 5 or higher wind dragon from your deck to your hand, and Thunder level 7 adds any Armed Dragon card from your deck to your hand, which means we can search the support spells and traps we'll be talking about in a bit. Now, it's really good that these cards have these effects to supplement the new level up mechanic, don't get me wrong, but you're not wiping out a whole field of monsters using level 7, no matter how cool their art looks. Honestly, the dissonance is kinda shocking. But Armed Dragon level 10 is where things get interesting, and probably has one of the deepest of cuts when it comes to references. But before we get into the explanation, I think an example is in order. Chazz?
Alright, fine, but only because having me here is the only way to do this card justice.
Alright, so Armed Dragon Thunder level 10 has 3000 attack and 2000 defense, and if this card was special summoned by the effect of an Armed Dragon monster, it gains the following effects based on its attack.
1.
Its name becomes Armed Dragon level 10.
10.
Control of this card can't be switched.
100.
Can't be destroyed by battle.
1000.
Once per turn, as a quick effect, you can send a card from your hand to the grave, then target another card on the field and destroy it, and if you do, this card gains 1000 attack.
Monjome Thunder!
And at 10,000 once per turn, you can destroy all other cards on the field. Okay, so This never came up in the dub because the joke doesn't really translate, but Chazz's Japanese name is Monjome Jun, and the first part of that name, Mon, uses the symbol to represent the number 10,000. So instead of the Chazz it up chant that we all know and love from the dub, originally he's building up a number, one digit place at a time, until he reaches his name. And that's only half of it, because even the thunder part is a pun. Chazz is about as upper-class edgelord as it gets, insisting that people refer to him with honorifics as befitting of his noble station. The weebs out there know that the san suffix is one such honorific, so when someone would just refer to him as Monjome, he'd shoot back with Monjome-sanda, which is basically like someone saying, "That's Sir Monjome." But when he tried doing this to the students at North Academy after he'd been exiled, they thought he was correcting them with Monjome-sanda, because Sanda is the Japanese pronunciation of the word thunder. So it basically works out to Chazz saying, "It's Sir Monjome." Everyone at North Academy was like, "Oh, our apologies, Monjome Thunder." And that's how we got from there to here. Now, as a monster, this card is kinda sick. Relatively easy to summon, has great stats, is basically a trident that can trigger your armed dragon thunder effects, grows bigger every turn you use it, and can eventually blast the entire board, though hopefully you'll have secured the game before you gain 7,000 additional attack. But despite taking a long time to charge up, its other effects are quite strong, and out of all the monsters that lay claim to the number 10,000, this monster is number 1. 10! 100! No, we just did that. Okay, so that's all the primary armed dragon monsters. Now let's go over the ones that are floating around the peripheries. However, there are quite a few cards we won't be covering. The armed dragon varieties for Metaphys and Dark don't really fit our theme, as well as anything associated with Ojamas or light machines, as we've already covered a number of those elsewhere. We're also leaving out Hardened Armed Dragon because it specifically states it's not an armed dragon monster. Armed Dragon, the Armored Dragon, is a level 4 monster with 1900 attack and 1400 defense, and when this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can special summon a level 5 or lower Wind Dragon monster from your hand or deck, except a copy of itself, but it can't attack directly this turn. This is a pretty sweet way to get Armed Dragon level 5 onto the board, letting them immediately punch over another monster so they can transform into level 7 later on. But it can also get you Thunder level 3 or 5 if you want to climb up the Thunder ladder. But we're not limited to our own archetype for this effect. This can summon basically any of the Dragoonity tuners, leading to some sick synchro plays. But what I think is the most sick is Kawaki Maru Drago. Shutting off light and dark special summons is fantastic, especially considering the modern metagame at time of recording. TR elements lose basically all their bite, and sprites can't access half their monsters, including Gigantic Sprite. This is, of course, all predicated on you destroying a monster by battle, necessitating that your opponent has already built a board, but this can stop future development, and with 1900 attack, getting over something isn't that outlandish. But let's do a reality check here, okay? You're not the Armored Dragon, okay? Everyone here has armor. Don't get ahead of yourself. Armor Dragon Ritual is a ritual spell that's used to summon Knight of Armor Dragon, tributing monsters from your hand or field whose total levels equal 4 or more. During your main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the grave, you can banish monsters from your hand or face-up field whose total levels equal 4 or more to banish this card from the grave, and if you do, special summon a Knight of Armor Dragon from your grave. That's actually pretty cool, a ritual spell that you can get double usage out of by using the same monster. And while the banishing can suck, at least 4 levels are easy to come by. But the spell is only half the equation. The ritual monster, Knight of Armor Dragon, is a level 4 monster with 1900 attack and 1200 defense, and at the start of the damage step, if this card battles a monster special summoned from the extra deck, you can shuffle that monster into the deck. You can also tribute this card to special summon a level 5 or higher Wind Dragon monster from your hand or deck. Now, I don't recommend using that effect to summon Thunder level 10, because despite its association with the theme, it isn't an armed dragon monster, but Thunder level 7 is totally fair game. It's also impressive removal against some outstanding threats, bringing to the table non-destruction, non-targeting removal that shuffles the monster into the deck. It's not so relevant to most extra deck monsters because shuffling the extra deck doesn't mean anything, but it'll definitely get rid of pendulum monsters. But I think my favorite part here is how this dragon here looks like if level 3 couldn't wait to evolve, so it put on a level 7 costume. The armor pieces literally look too big for its body. Pile Armed Dragon is a level 7 monster with 2800 attack and 1000 defense, and you can send one other Wind Dragon or a level 7 or higher dragon monster from your hand to the grave to special summon this card from your hand. And while on the field, it can send an Armed Dragon monster from your hand or deck to the grave as cost, except a copy of itself. This turn, you can only attack with a single monster. Also, the targeted monster gains attack equal to the level of the monster sent to the grave times 300, meaning you can send one of your level 10s to grave to boost this to 5800. And the best part is, because it sends from the deck as cost, you can access any of your Armed Dragon Thunder effects with this. Drawing or searching a card without discarding is a great plus, though you probably aren't ending the game this turn since swarming attacks aren't on the menu. And since this card's own special summon effect is also an activated ability that requires a cost, your Thunders can trigger from that as well. Pile Armed Dragon is a huge boon to the deck, and while I would love to make the Gurren Lagann reference here because of all the drills, Pile Armed lacks the crucial piercing battle damage that's basically a prerequisite for that. Seriously, this thing is made of drills, how did they miss that? Armed Dragon level 10 what? I can't. The Yugi Sphere has ruined any chance of getting through this with any kind of dignity. Armed Dragon level 10 White is our first light attribute monster, sporting 3000 attack and 2000 defense that can't be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned by its own effect. You can banish Armed Dragon monsters from your field and or grave, whose total levels equal 10, to special summon this card from your hand. Then you can add the card White Veil from your deck to your hand. While on the field, you take no effect damage, and at the start of the damage step, if this card attacks, you can destroy a card on the field. This, of course, begs the question of what White Veil actually is. Well, it's an equipped spell, and when the equipped monster battles, your opponent can't activate spell or trap cards until the end of the damage step. When an attack is declared involving the equipped monster, face-up spell and trap cards your opponent controls have their effects negated until the end of the damage step, even if this card leaves the field. When the equipped monster destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls. And when this face-up card in a player's spell and trap zone leaves the field, that player takes 3000 points of damage. So now that that's out of the way, what the hell are we looking at? Well, it's all a big anime reference. For a few episodes, Chazz was brainwashed by the Light of Destruction and used the card White Veil on Armed Dragon level 10, so that's how he got here. It is nice that this card counteracts the potential downside of White Veil, but even if you don't use that card, this still has built-in removal and a nice summon effect. You can banish a level 10, a 3 and 7, or 2 5s to bring this out, and if nothing else, this makes for great Gustav Max material. Not a necessary piece of the archetype, but I think it's all white. Alright, that's all the monsters, now it's time for the spells and traps. Armed Dragon Blitz is a normal spell that targets an Armed Dragon monster you control, and you take a monster with the same name from your deck or grave, and either add it to your hand, or special summon it, ignoring summoning conditions. But it can't attack directly, and you can't special summon monsters the turn you activate this card, except dragon monsters. This can allow you to access the effects of your base Armed Dragons through your Thunders without having to sacrifice one to turn into the other, because they're all treated as having the same original name while on the field, and also in the grave. Now, despite having two monsters of the same level, you are limited to only summoning dragons, so your Xyz options are a bit limited. But if you have two level 10s, that makes Galaxy Eyes Cypher X Dragon, you get Red Eyes Flare Metal Dragon if you have two 7s, or Volofernagus the Darkest Dragon Doom Rider. Quick effect removal is pretty cool, I hear. Or if you want to go for some odd flavor, summon Dark Armed the Dragon of Annihilation, which gives you 2 pops to really blitz your opponent's field. Armed Dragon Flash is a quick play spell that special summons a level 3 Armed Dragon monster from your deck in defense position. This can be used in a similar way as Masked Dragon, summoning out base level 3 while in your standby phase to get level 5 immediately. Alternatively, you can summon out Thunder level 3 to get that chain rolling, or just summon level 3 onto the field for any other purpose. This is basically a hybrid of Emergency Teleport and Quick Launch, so when it comes to getting your plays started, this can get you there in a flash. Armed Dragon Lightning is a continuous spell, and if any number of Armed Dragon monsters you control would be destroyed by a card effect, you can send this card to the grave instead. You can also target an armed dragon monster you control, then activate one of these effects. That monster gains attack equal to its level times 100 permanently, even if this card leaves the field, or add an armed dragon monster with an equal or lower level from your grave to your hand. Ooh, now that is some nice recursion. You get back all your search and draw triggers, and once you establish Thunder level 7, you can slowly boost its attack to get the board wipe effect. And it gives you a little extra protection just in case. Talk about punching up your strategy. Armed Dragon Thunderbolt is a normal trap card that targets an Armed Dragon monster you control, and it gains 1000 attack for each Armed Dragon monster in your grave with an equal or lower level than it, and with different names from each other. Also, for the rest of the turn, your opponent takes no battle damage from its attacks. You can banish this card from your grave, then target an Armed Dragon spell in your grave and add it to your hand, but you can only use one effect per turn, and only once per turn. Now, the funny thing is that even if you play both the original and Thunder Armed Dragons, you aren't going to get credit for both because all the Thunders have the base form's name while in the grave. Even with that, however, it's still possible to get enough to reach the board wipe amount, but it'll take a while to set up. And that's basically all you'll be using it for, because since Thunderbolt stops you from dealing battle damage, you won't be able to turn that 10,000 plus damage into a win. But being able to recover your spells is fantastic, because the more access you have to them, the faster you can bolt to the finish line. Okay, so that's all the Armed Dragon cards, but what do we do with them? Well, with all these attack buffs and removal, we want to be on the aggro game plan. Maybe don't rely on our base versions, but a Thunder level 10 has some great interruption, and eventually turns into a win condition by way of giving you a direct attack with a 10,000 point monster. So, with all that in mind, what can we play to help them out? Well, an honorary armed dragon we haven't mentioned yet is Tempest, Dragon Ruler of Storms. You can discard Tempest and any armed dragon to add any dragon from your deck to your hand, which ends up triggering any armed dragon thunders you discard for it. And it makes for excellent rank 7 material. If you're not type locked, then things like Big Eye and Dragosack are excellent, but if you're playing Master Duel, then the absolute buffoonery that is Galaxy Tomahawk is legal, and makes an absolutely stupendous amount of free material. Just so you know. For more level 7 material, Noru Ares the Vernal Dragon is pretty spiffy. This can send a level 5 or higher monster from your hand to the grave to special summon this, which will trigger the thunders. And while it would normally be banished when it leaves the field, using it as Xyz material keeps it from doing that. And if your opponent does destroy it, then you get to banish one of their cards, which is pretty nifty. Hieratic Seal of the Heavenly Spheres always makes for a wonderful addition to dragon decks. While you usually tribute Heavenly Spheres itself, you can tribute an Armed Dragon Thunder instead. And since that would send them to the grave to activate its effect, that'll trigger the thunders too. Other cards that can trigger this are Omni Dragon Brotar to fix up your hands, or Prime Material Dragon to stop destruction effects. If you want to be mean, well, our theme is made of winds, so we do have Barrier Statue of the Stormwinds to help. And if we pair it with Armed Dragon level 10, you can pop a monster that's threatening it by battle. Presvelger, the Desperate Doom Eagle, makes for a great link monster to mess with our opponent's grave, and Dragoonity Knight Romulus makes for a fine stepping stone, all while getting you Dragon Deck Superstar Dragon Ravine. Oh, and yeah, we're running a Dragon deck, so Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon is a must. As for a silly tech pick, try Fallen of Albaz. I mean, you do discard as cost for the fusion effect, which also triggers your thunders, and you can get rid of annoying monsters with it, potentially grabbing a fusion, synchro, Xyz, or link to make Ice Blade, which I adore. And that's all I have to say about Armed Dragons. They have some interesting plays that make for a fun, fast, exciting duel, and while I don't think it'll break into the top tables anytime soon, sometimes you just need a deck with a cool gimmick to really capture the spirit of the game.
Hello? Not competitive? It's a dragon deck with big monsters and an efficient resource engine that blows stuff up and does big damage.
Yeah, but like, you don't have any negates and your play sequence is pretty linear. Honestly, it doesn't hold a candle to Dragon Link.
Oh, so that's how it is. Well, you can kiss that orbital platform goodbye. Armed Dragon Catapult Cannon. Set sights, charge weapons, and blow that thing out of space. T-minus 60.
Oh shoot, I've got to go get our defenses online. Make sure to tell me down below what your favorite things to do with armed dragons are, and make sure to click all the good buttons down below. Oh, and of course, I've got to thank all my wonderful patrons, including Quasar Commander, Harry the Ominous Benefactor, Special Contributor, Gibbles the Gibble, Nebula Navigators, Third Dynasty, Adam Zajadel, Ashling Waltz, Avi Chali, Benjamin Meisner, Cryptic Gamer, Eric Frankie, Genesis Yu-Gi-Oh, Gloomba331, Great Big Pillow, Kelling Zangetsu, Inblink Ironic, John Manji, Julius Sneezer, Lorakia Meteornus, Michael Madsen, Mighty Action X, Muzuki Clark, Panther J, Rebel King Lucifer, Ruxith Serrani, The Fresh Prince of Conair, The Wizard Moose, True Neutral, Tyler Cranston, and Xander Wolfensberger, Cosmic Crusaders, Bear Shark Tupo Studios, Chazz Ghost, Corbinisms, Cozybo275, Jesus Garcia, Manga Pages, Marion James Picata, Nitromo, RGS, RemT Bright, Shooting Star 3300, Star-Lord 777, Tyler Martin, and the Legendary Raven, as well as the wonderful Starlight Explorers you see on screen now. If you want to help keep the shield strong and be a part of the credits, sign up to my Patreon, and if you want to see another part of Chazz's Armory, check out this video covering Ojamas. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!